The rare earth war has fully escalated. The covert struggle officially becomes an open showdown. In the deep autumn of 2025, the US, along with 32 nations, poured $300 billion into forming a rare earth coalition. Yet, in less than 6 months, production lines for their own F-35 fighters were on the verge of halt, and the Tesla Gigafactory in Berlin was forced to cut production by 40%. Isn't this operation counterintuitive? How did spending a fortune on countermeasures end up trapping themselves even more severely? The answer is actually hidden in sifting the sand. Rare earths are like river sand mixed with gold flakes. Mining is digging the sand, but refining and separation is the crucial step of picking out the gold. What China controls is the world's most precise sieve, holding over 90% of the refining capacity, with a separation cost only 1/4 of the US's. It's the difference between others spending $4 to sift a pound of gold, and us spending only $1, while sifting it cleaner. Even more disruptive is the 0.1% rule. The export controls implemented by China in 2025 restrict the re-export of any downstream product containing even 0.1% of Chinese rare earth components. This move instantly turned the West's resource processing closed loop into an empty shell. Rare earth ore mined in Australia has no place in the US/Europe to be refined, and parts manufactured in the US/Europe, if they contain a trace of Chinese rare earths, cannot be sold abroad. Behind this is a life-or-death game that concerns the global technological lifeline. Next, we will fully dissect why has the Western coalition fallen into a dilemma of do nothing and die, or retaliate and bleed? And how does China hold the initiative in this war? On November 3, 2025, the U.S. Critical Minerals Trade Club was officially inaugurated. Its first members included Japan, South Korea, and Australia, quickly followed by resource-rich nations like Chile and Indonesia, claiming they would build a resource processing consumption closed loop. 3 months earlier, they went even further, establishing a $30 trillion financing network with over a dozen countries, throwing $8.5 billion at Australia to leverage a massive $53 billion in resource development. On the surface, the alliance is stable and financially robust, but this is not a proactive attack, it is a passive defense forced by China. The EU's Le Figaro admitted that nearly 70% of the world's rare earth extraction and 80% of its refining happen in China. Europe's own lithium and cobalt reserves combined account for less than 1% of the global total. If they don't band together, they'll wait to be choked. Commentary: this Western coalition looks more like a panicked act of self-preservation. They assumed that capital alone could bind a community of shared interests, forgetting that the core of the rare earth industry is technology, not money. Australia has the ore but no separation technology. Chile's lithium ore must be shipped to China for purification. The so-called closed loop has been missing the most crucial refining link from the start. This alliance, which separates resources from technology, may look numerous but is fragile and is destined to be a costly facade bought for peace of mind. China's control has long been deeply rooted in the industrial chain. Beyond 90% of the refining capacity, we hold 58% of rare earth separation patents. Our latest 4.5 generation flow stream solution separation method can achieve a rare earth purity of 99.999996%. What does this mean? It's the equivalent of finding an error in less than 1 gram out of 100 million tons of ore. In contrast, the US company MP Materials has been boasting about building a magnet factory for years, planning to start production in 2028 with an annual output of 10,000 tons. That sounds like a lot, but China's Jinli permanent magnet has a single factory with 30 times that capacity. The EU is even more embarrassed. They introduced the Critical Raw Materials Act to compress the approval cycle to 1 to 2 years, yet a single lithium mine project in Saxony, Germany, has been delayed for 18 months just by environmental protests and hasn't broken ground yet. Commentary: technological barriers are never built overnight. China spent decades turning rare earths from selling sand into selling gold by focusing on the dirty and difficult work of refining and purification. The West is accustomed to quick profits and is now scrambling to make up for technological shortcomings, unable to keep pace. Their predicament proves that there is no shortcut to industrial upgrading. Policies and capital accumulation cannot beat the accumulation of technology over time. This is the most fatal choking point. The most significant headache for the West is the dilemma of two evils. If they don't resist, once China tightens supply, US F-35 fighter engines won't be made within 6 months, and the EU's EV battery production capacity will be cut in half. If they resist, the cost is unbelievably high. Rebuilding a complete supply chain requires $300 billion and at least 10 years. Onshore processing costs in the US are 4 times that of China, and the EU's strategic projects have seen their approval cycle dragged from 3 years to 5 years due to environmental issues. Australia is even more ridiculous, holding vast rare earth ores yet having to purchase extraction agents from China for processing. It's like having the gold sand, but begging China to help sift it. France built a rare earth recycling plant hailed as the world's largest outside of China, but its annual output is only 600 tons, a mere fraction of a medium-sized Chinese factory. Commentary: this situation of do nothing and die, or retaliate and bleed, is the West's own doing. They previously relied on cheap Chinese rare earths, outsourcing the highly polluting and high-investment refining stages to China while keeping the high-profit downstream stages for themselves. Now, trying to move the supply chain back, they find environmental protection, costs, and technology are all major roadblocks. It's like outsourcing your food security to someone else and only realizing you need to farm when you're starving. It's too late. In the face of Western containment, China's counterattack is no longer just a chokehold, but a systemic, dimensional reduction strike. On the resource front, we have signed strategic agreements with Indonesia and Brazil through the Belt and Road Initiative. Companies like Gofeng Lithium have locked in 50% of global overseas equity mines, ensuring stable supply even if the West blocks resources. On the technology front, the performance of our rare earth permanent magnet materials has reached 50 NGOE, 2 to 3 years ahead of Western counterparts. Permanent magnet materials with a magnetic energy product of $600 KJ/M, $3 monopolize core missile guidance technology, a level the West will take at least 6 years to mass produce. On the rules front, we lead the development of 40% of the standards in the ISO/TC 303 committee, and we are pushing for rare earth settlement in RMB. In the future, the West may have to pay for rare earths in Chinese currency. Commentary: China's counterattack is smart because it doesn't compete with the West in terms of attrition, but rather establishes new advantages across the 3 dimensions of resources, technology, and rules. We are not pursuing zero-sum games. Instead, we are building cross-border industrial chains through 2 countries, 2 parks models, which secures our own supply while leaving room for cooperation with other nations. In contrast, the West's strategy of forming small circles and decoupling only pushes up their own costs. This is the best proof that win-win cooperation has more vitality than confrontation. Of course, this war is not without impact on China. From January to August 2025, rare earths saw a situation of increased volume but falling prices. Northbound capitals saw a net outflow of over 300 million renminbi from northern rare earth, and GDP growth may be suppressed by 0.2 to 0.3 percentage points, with 500,000 to 800,000 jobs facing adjustment. But pressure is also motivation. The R&D investment ratio of domestic rare earth enterprises is expected to break 3%, and the proportion of high-tech industries will increase by 5 to 8 percentage points. The West's decade-long reconstruction cycle has given China a golden window to shift from resource export to technology output. Even if our global refining share drops to 75% to 80% in the future, the profit from selling high value-added products will be even higher. Commentary: short-term pain is an unavoidable part of transformation. China has never won competition by choking others, but by turning pressure into an impetus for upgrading. The West's containment has instead highlighted the weak links in our industrial chain and accelerated technological breakthroughs. This rare earth war is essentially the coming-of-age ceremony for China's industrial upgrade. By enduring the short-term difficulties, we will welcome stronger global competitiveness. This rare earth war has not only exposed the truth of the global industrial chain but has also proven a principle. The era of forming small circles and choking others is over. Only through win-win cooperation and deep technological cultivation can a nation stand invincible in global competition. China's rare earth advantage has never been a weapon for choking others, but the confidence to drive global technological development. In which areas do you think China should focus its efforts in the rare earth sector? Should it continue to break through in technology, or strengthen international cooperation? Feel free to leave your opinion in the comments section. Follow me to understand the underlying logic of global industrial competition. Thank you. See you next time.